This is Just AMZN for Monday, June 14th, 2021. So take a look at the prices we're at today. We ran right into the same resistance we ran into yesterday, the same line that we've had on here since June, or I'm sorry, this is June, since November, 33.66.80. That was basically kind of our apex point. Like we just kind of bounced above, below, kept coming back to it, went sideways for the middle of the day, like all except for the opening half hour or so, and then like the closing half hour. Otherwise, it was just sideways, and it was really hard to really gauge like what was it actually going to do. There were some really good candles in here, so there was a really nice hammer here. We poked above this line a couple of times, then just sold off from there. So there were some opportunities to go bullish and bearish during the day, but then finding the right option to do it with was a little bit of a challenge. So let me zoom in on this first, just because it's so hard to see what we actually did. Let me zoom out here. Okay, so here's where we ran into on Friday, ran right through that resistance, put in, this is kind of like a double top sort of thing. If you zoom in like a 2 minute, 3 minute, it's easier to see, definitely like a 1 minute, but broke down, retested the neckline, and then rolled over with a hammer. And so right here, there was a great opportunity to go bearish right off of this line and play that down to the 21, which we started putting in a hammer here, another hammer here. Let me zoom back into the day. And so I do want to do this. Let me just zoom in on this portion of the day because it's easier, a whole lot easier to see that we actually kind of made some interesting moves. So it's a little too far. I wanted to get the lows because I like seeing the hammer wicks there. Okay, so you can kind of see this was a bit of a triangle during the day. It looks like, let me get the drawing tool. So if I could draw tonight, we'll see. Looks like we were making lower highs, higher lows, and it looks like it was coming into this apex price right here, put in a really nice kind of stair step, broke down. Okay, that's it, it's over, it's going lower. Nope, put in another stair step here and then did not go lower. And this is actually where it started to bounce. And there are some really cool signals here before this turned into kind of a double bottom, with that being the neckline, another retest here. You know, it's again kind of hard to see this here, but this is a double bottom breakout, retest the neckline right here. Maybe a little easier to see like a 2 minute or 3 minute chart, but we'll stay here in the 5. Another really nice hammer here, kind of high wave indecision. This is an inverted hammer. I don't really like that as much, but it put in an inside candle and then broke out and then hit a really nice retest into another hammer here. So, you know, just a really good way to play the candles. But I was noticing what was going on at the options, like on this candle and this candle. So I do want to zoom back out and look at that a little bit. But you can see, you know, we came back up to this high later. We came back down, not quite as far down as that low, but we did come back into this hammer range with this retest here. And so I do really like that it held that level so well. And I will show you another reason why in just a sec here. So let me zoom back out and let's see if I can, I just want to get this back to, I know I'm going to be zoomed in, so we can't see the open, we can't see the close. But what we can see is what was going on at some of these levels on this call. So this is this Friday's expiration, the 34.50 calls, so we're about 100 points away. And we put in a low around 560. Like you could have been buying this out the gate with like a $6 limit buy. Now, if you had the order in right as this candle closed and as this one opened, it may not have filled because it opened at, or it had a low of 601. But what I really like about this is it came right back to that low price later, right at $6, starting with this candle, starting with this candle, this lower wick, where it's looking like it's rolling over, but it really hasn't been that definitively, you know, rolling over. It's been just sideways, and you don't know that it's rolling over. Come on, trying to highlight. You don't know that this is rolling over after this kind of a, that's not what I meant to do. Sorry. Trying to talk and click sometimes gets complicated. Okay, so we got that. Let me zoom back in. on this. Well, here, while I'm here, okay, so you got the low down here, and you got the high up here. I really like that we closed above this line, clearly above this line. I think we're well on our way to 3,400. I think we need to get there tomorrow. Otherwise, the purple line's coming down a little bit more. Not to say we're going to stop here, but that's a next really clean target. And like I said, I think we'll hit it tomorrow. We're only, what, 16 points away? About 20, according to the after hours right now. But what I was seeing with the options, and I do want to talk about next week's options, which is not something I normally do, but I'm trying to take a step back a little bit from options, uh, from what I'm used to doing with options, and get some more perspective. Been talking about it quite a bit with digging into a group that I've been a part of, a mentorship group. If you want to know about, if you want to know more about mentorship groups and learning candles and things that I've learned, follow the link in the description below, and just start there. Click on it and start learning for free, and then dive in, ask me questions in the comments, and I can fill in more of what I know too. So, but I did want to zoom in. So similarly to how I had this one zoomed in, let's see if I can do it the right way now. So like this, close enough. And then we'll zoom in on the 3,300 put right here. What I really like that was happening later in the day here is, as this kind of sold off a little bit here, but then that started to be a higher low. And as this was making lower highs, what happened with the options is, so the 3,300 put came back up to this price. It didn't retest cleanly back up into these lows, which is what I really like to see. Like, it would have been great if it came all the way back up to 9. It came close, but what I really like is these lows here. When this was making a low, this was making a high, retesting this level. And so we're right back into the 850, 865, like that kind of level right through here. And so what I was looking at today, well, let me finish this statement here. So as this was hitting the high here, there were some signals with the RSI on the put saying this is a good place for this to roll over. At the same time, the 3450 call was getting back right back into the open low, or around that price, and giving signals with the RSI that this could be a place to get in bullish, and then had that kind of a 3R move from there. So if you got in at 6, you could have ridden that up to 9 for 3Rs, which would have been really close to the resistance that had gotten into earlier. Maybe you would have been exiting at 850, just to kind of front run that a little bit. And that's with this week's options. If you were trying to hold for 9, you would have needed to hold for this big of a candle to come in, which that gets a little bit scary. Like, it has to go that high to get the $9 price. And right now we can't even see where that price is. So way up here, which was a new high in the day, is basically where it filled the $9 target. So that just seems a little bit too far away. Like, I would want to be exiting at these previous wicks or a little bit below. Hasn't made a new high, like these since, making these lower highs. So this is a brand new high, even like at this level. So that level isn't even at 8. That wouldn't even have been 2Rs. So we're looking for 3Rs up at 9. I probably would have been exiting around 850, even exiting at 8, the fact that we didn't get that far up. So now it's only like a 2.5 hour trade, just because I don't want it to roll over and trail my stop up and only get out with like an R. Like, it's still good to get out with an R, but if I didn't know for sure I was going to get that 3R, I think, and this close to the end of the day, I would have been making some adjustments there. So also with making some adjustments, so I took a little bit of a look, and I'm going to keep doing this a little bit more. So I looked at the next week's options, so the 25th of June, looking a little further out in strike price. So I'm looking at the 3,500 call, and then I'm just going to change the strike, or change the expiration on the put. I'm going to keep the same strike, and I'll show you in a sec why. This was already really low volume here, really low. Like, these tick candles that I hate, they get worse the further away you go. So looking at the 3250, it's even worse. You have some of the similar moves. So you have these retracements that were happening. And again, it's really hard to get this kind of set up right. So you have these retracements, but they're really even less clear than the weekly option, this week's option, the 18th, with a 3,300 put. This is really less clear. Like you have similar levels you're getting into, but I don't know that I would trust this as much just because there's next to no volume here. I mean, you got what, 6 contracts, one contract, one contract, one contract. I don't like even looking at options like this because it doesn't give you a really clean picture. Now, looking at the call, the 3,500 call, you have some of these tick candles, but for the most part, there's some candles that have some, actual bodies in here. The volumes in some cases are similar. So this one is 4 contracts. This one has 2 contracts, but you have some bigger candles like this. This one's got 35 contracts. So I'm much more inclined to trust this option because it's got a bigger move. It has more bodies in here. And very similarly to the 3,450 call from this week, the 18th, 3,500 for next week actually comes back down to really similar price. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, one of my favorite entries is 10 by 9. And that was basically the entry price at the beginning of the day. It was another entry price here later on, even though it was making this hammer right off the 21. You could have been playing this, getting in 10 by 9. You just would not have gone to 3Rs, would not have gone up to 13 at this point of the day. The open did and the close did, but right through here, middle of the day, it did not. It was just 2 sideways through here. And even though it was such a sideways day, I came back to looking at this. It's like, oh, this could work out really well. You have really small range. It does get below 10. It actually held below 10 a little bit, but it didn't take off, going down lower. It really held the low, held the open low. It held close enough to 10 by 9, that like the upper range of that. I think it made it down to, let's see, 964, I think it was the lowest. So it didn't even get down to the bottom half of that risk level. It stayed in the upper half. So, it's possible. I don't recommend taking it with, getting in like 10 by 950. So a buy limit at $10 and a stop at 9 is what I would go with. And then using that $100 risk, or if you've got 200, you get 2 contracts with that same setup, 10 by 9. Then you're looking at 13 as a target. Or if you have a $200 risk, then and you're into 2 of these, well, I guess your target would still be the same, right? So yeah, it would be. Never mind. I was going to say it would be half that, but no, it wouldn't be 1150 because you're into 2, so you still want it to get to 13 to have the same gain. Anyway, in this case, the $13 price was well below these candles over here. But the difference, again, looking at how these move, and this is where I'm still kind of just learning a little bit more about looking the next week, and I'll continue to share what I'm finding. This candle we talked about on the other this week's strike, this candle taking out these highs, this candle was well below what we would have wanted to see. So we had a better gain with the current week's options, but I think we had a better risk, and we're able to mitigate that risk better with this option, even though we weren't quite as far along with our gain. So I'm a little more I still would probably be getting out of this at 12 rather than at 13, just because it's getting above these. It's getting above the previous highs here. And so this is just something that I'm still getting a better idea of, what is it we're trying to do with options. If we can mitigate our risk better and then our gain is 2R instead of 3R, I think I'm okay with that because I think I'll win more time. So this is stuff I'm starting to track. I'm getting a better idea. Just looking a week ahead. I may look 2 weeks ahead, 3 weeks ahead, the next month's expiration, things like that. Each one of those will take a little more premium with the option you're getting into. I wanted to go back to, oops, I typed in the wrong number. I typed in 3330, meant to type in 3300. So similarly, this one had some better range. So still the tick candles that I hate, but had a very similar retest here. In this case, the retest came all the way back up into this low. I do like that it came back up to a previous low price, even though it was just these tick candles that I hate. And I know I keep saying that. I need to stop saying that. But I like that we got into that similar price there, because it just shows that we had some support. We had somebody buying. Well, I assume buying. I guess somebody could be selling here, but we don't know because there's no direction to the candle. But I like that we made it up to a previous price. And then in this case here, we made it back up to this price and this price. So it just, I guess to me, it carries more weight that we retested a second time into old support, new resistance, confirmed resistance, if you want to call it that. Again, there's some things going on with kind of this one's not as clean of like a double top on the RSI. This one's really clean with a double bottom on the RSI. And that, from what I have observed, this is really nicely kind of a reversal pattern happening on the RSI that would support a bounce happening here with the RSI so low. And then it's really hard to see the RSI because I have the RSI on the 5 minute for the stock overlapped with the squeeze. So right through here, we've got squeezes firing and then not firing, but we've got kind of a similar double bottom. It just didn't get below the RSI 30. That's one thing I would have liked to have a little bit different. Like this one did here. It did like a double bottom here below the 30. And so like this would have been a place to be buying here and looking for a small move back up into the resistance line. So that would have been buying on this candle with a move back up here, looking for it to make a lower high on the day. So let's even go back and look at that. So that would have been buying at 1225 at the close of the 1225 candle. So that would have been, nobody bought at 1225. All right, so let's go look at this week's and we'll see what we were looking at earlier. So going back to 1225, there we go. Somebody bought at 1225. Oops. The close was 663. So let's say, okay, even worse than that. Let's say we got 675 just to have some clean numbers. And this we'll have to zoom in on too. So if you bought at 675, so you bought here, well, you would have gotten better than 675. The next candle had a high of 675. I think you could have done better than 675, but still, it would have been a nice little move. Would have been more of a scalp where you're going, letting it run up to this line. In this case, that hit it on this candle. That would have been this candle. Okay, that's not much of a gain. So that would have been 675 up to 7. So still would have been a signal to be buying there, but it just didn't have as big of a move. So we got to move a little bit closer with strikes. So to get a better move, right? So let's look at the 3400, and this gets a little more challenging because now we've got a wider candle. So this candle's range 1225. Actually, it's only 57 bucks. So that's not too bad. If you're buying at the close of this candle, probably you got in, let's call it 1550 even. And then that had to move up to 16 at this point. If you were able to hold into this next candle, that's still only maybe an R. So like 1550 up to 1650. I don't like that either. And this gets harder because the where you have your stop really does need to be down at like 1450. Doesn't quite get below this low, but yeah, that I don't like buying here as much. I would have liked to, if I'm looking at the 3400, I don't like buying here because you're so far off this low. But I do like the fact that this option also came back down. No, didn't quite come back down into the opening though. I do like how small these candles got here. And you do have some of these signals where we're bouncing below the 30 and then getting back above it relatively quickly. So this is like a triple bottom sort of thing with, you got 3 little blue ticks here. And the blue is just the signal that it got below the 30. So it's easier visually to see that. And I don't even know how I have that set and tossed, but I think there's a way to tell it what color to be. So you can set the color yourself. But I do like that it kind of, yeah, this range is too tight here. I think you wouldn't have been able to get in with $100 risk. Probably, I mean, buying 14 by 13, there's nothing else saying 13 is going to be a good level. So these candles, they're decent candles, but you'd want to get in, like, I guess maybe this one, like get in 1450 by 1350, because it's already starting to move up. So this is already starting to move up a little bit. Either that or getting in 15 by 14, which I think you would have needed to wait for this candle to come in. So you're waiting for it to bounce in that retest, and then you're saying, okay, it's going to run, and it doesn't by any means have to. This is a great place for it to roll over. Like, you know, if this was just a retest of, you know, this stair step I talked about and a bearish breakdown, like this is a great place for it to roll over. So you got to keep that bullish bias. I think the best way of doing that was looking at, well, the fact that we were going higher from a high wave candle, and then the fact that we were holding these lows on this strike. I really like this strike because we held the lows through here so well. This open and close, I'm sorry, this close and open, this close and open, and then we just went sideways through here. I'd be willing, and again, it's my 10 by 9 setup. Like, it's my ideal favorite setup. So one thing I'm going to start doing is looking for a 10 by 9 entry on the option and see if I can find that option, whether, you know, and stick with mostly, you know, zeros, 25, 50, 75. Stick with those and change the date and start playing around with some of that and see if I can hone in on where is that entry going to be, and will it have held, you know, multiple times in the day? I think that just gives it that much more confidence that, okay, this is the level to be buying. And then especially when we run into resistance. So it's been a while since I've done this. Let me draw this to make it really super clear. So here's the $10 price, around about $10 price. And then here is the retest price on this one, just to help you see it visually, you know. And it's okay that we went through it a little bit. The fact is that we, you know, held this really well. So like right here, so like that candle, and then we dipped below and then bounced, and then we held through there and then sold off, and then we retested and we retested again. And then on this one, let's switch back to this. There we go. So this one, and this, yeah, this close price here was at 973. So I'm going to put this back at 10 because I like the $10 price. I'm just going to edit it here. I just really like that $10 price. It's just so easy to multiply if you got a larger R, you know, if you want to do $100 R, $500 R, $1,000 R, you just buy 10 contracts, you know, at 10 by 9, and it would have worked at all of these. Like I said, the first one would have ran to 13 really easily. That's 3R. The next one didn't even get to 12. So that would have been harder to hold through, or you would have been exiting, probably scalping an R, maybe an R and a half when it goes sideways for this long. And then this over here where it's dipping below, but it's still holding in that range. It's like, oh, I could get a little better entry than 10. And then that ends up running up to 13. But like we talked about, probably would have exited at 12. Since we didn't get to 12 earlier, 12 would have been a nice target, especially if you had done this a second time. It's like you just stack it. You get an R here, 2R here, and there's your 3R. And that's what I like to see in Monday through Wednesday. And then a 4R on a Thursday and an 8R on a Friday. So we'll keep looking for those. But here's some of the levels that I'm seeing, you know, on these options. And I'm just trying to find decent premium, decent volume and levels being held on the option, just like we're seeing some levels on the stock. So hope this helps. This is Justin AMZN. Thanks.